enough memory to actually get through all of this because there's so much. And I feel like I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure I've spoken about this before. But I'm not even all the way through, and there's like 4 pages of this. So let's go back. Hopefully you've been participating in the conversation to get us thus far. But there are just a couple things that, and I think I've said this already, but I just want to reiterate in case, because I just have no idea like who's tapping out, who's tapping in, or where you are in this conversation. So I saw, I don't know why I'm wanting to call him Action Jackson. That is definitely not his name. This guy's name is The Amazing Lucas. Oh my god, okay. I don't know why that fucking keeps skipping me. Anyway, so he said something I thought was really useful. It actually wasn't him. There was someone else who, like, I don't know, for the last like 4 nights he's been going live. So I feel like kind of like where we were in those Clubhouse conversations a while ago have turned into like nightly live streams, but this isn't on Twitch. Anyway, so if you're not participating there, if you didn't know that was a thing, that's currently happening, so tap in or whatever. Anyway, but this old man called in, right? And he was talking about the formula. This is what he said. It's like the formula. And he was talking about some fucking plan. And then, like, basically, like, Lucas was like, what is describe the plan, right? And this guy goes on for 15 minutes, and he was just saying words. He was like, this and this. And none of it made any sense contextually, right? So Lucas is basically like, you should stop reading the plan. You should also stop writing the plan. Stop talking about the plan. First of all, nobody cares about the plan. If there needed to be something like written down in order for like action to happen, it's already been written down. The problem is like implementing said plan with the specific people who need to implement it. Specifically like that guy. And then he was talking about like leadership. Oh, we don't have any leaders. We don't need any leaders. And it's like, well, that's obviously not true either. There certainly need to be leaders. And another thing about, I want to say this because I think it's kind of an incomplete conversation. So a really big part of being a leader is being a learner. So in order to move forward in anything, you're going to have to like understand how to do it. Like when you start a new job, you go through a training where they teach you how things work. Maybe you have to learn a new machine. Maybe you have to learn a new system. Whatever it is, someone else who knows how to do it is going to teach you how to do it. Then there's the person who's been doing the thing and they're going to show you. It works like that for every part of life. And so that's where leadership comes in. But in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good learner. So like, this is where I always go back to the Karate Kid. If you haven't seen that movie, like that's kind of the whole point. The wax off point of that is saying like, in order to achieve mastery, but not just mastery, it requires like diligence and like serious hard work. Like, the point of waxing the window is not to wax the window, but it's to go through the motion of actually waxing the fucking window so many times that you are absolutely certain that the window is waxed. This is why I talk about like understanding society through reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning. I'm going to say it like for the millionth time. Reinforcement learning. Now, I feel like the Kenyan twins were like a godsend when I found them, because like sometimes, and I feel like if you're here, this is not applying to us, but a part of like living in society is understanding the worldview of the delusional people around you. Now, this is actually funny too, because they just put the word delulu in the dictionary and we have been throwing that one out like fucking loose change, right? So now other people know when we are saying delulu and pointing to them that we are really talking about them. Like, these people are actually fucking delusional. Like, they literally, it's like, how can you say it? Like, it's not that we don't exist, right? It's like, how can you say this? America needed to see the Oaks Bluff campaign to know that the Blackademics exist. We know that the Blackademics exist. Like, Issa Rae is not new here. I think another part of that, and this is where it's really important, you gotta understand Roseanne. Everything goes back to Roseanne. Because, like, Roseanne for sure doesn't know who Issa Rae is. Like, I can bet you my bottom dollar $1 billion fucking dollars. There's no way in hell or high water that It's not just Roseanne. It's all of the people who are like her. Fit any identity marker there, that's what a Roseanne is. They do not know what Black academics are. So maybe another thing, and I'm kind of assuming this, the point of the Oaks Bluff campaign was to have this, like, it wasn't a self-actualization activity for people who are living the lifestyle or who are participants in that community. That is us. It was for other people, the Roseannes, to be like, oh my God, that is what a Black academic is. And it's like, are you serious right now? Like, you, what? Like, it's almost like if you're on chapter, I don't know, 1,657,000, and those bitches are on page 1, and you're just like, I cannot. This is why they have to add Delulu to the dictionary. Anyway, let's go back. I want to actually go over these notes because there was a lot to say. So this guy, the old man who calls in and doesn't realize what a leader is, basically, like, Lucas reads him to filth. So if you didn't see that, you should go watch that because that was very good. But I've seen this conversation before, but it ties into another conversation that Shayna had, which I also think is, like, interesting enough that we should talk about it. So basically, Shayna is talking about truancy amongst immigrant children. So what she's saying is, she's like, well, people are going to stop going to school and they're going to stop showing up. And she's talking about all these social issues because families are going to be separated because of illegal aliens being deported, right? So she goes on and on and on. Now, yes, this is true, and that will happen to some people and some students, except, wait a minute, like, this ain't the third world, is it? So obviously, like, there are spaces and places in society where children who do not have parents go. That's where these kids will go. I don't understand what is so, like, that is what will happen. And so what she's getting at is a whole different conversation, and that's what brings us to Roses in the Concrete. The bigger issue here is there's this idea that only some students should be subjected to poverty. Only some students should be subjected to all of the social deterrents that hinder mostly this. It all starts with Black students, right? Go back to any conversation with James Baldwin where he's like, America's trash. Is he right? Absolutely. But, like, that's not the point. Like, fast forward to today, right? No problem has been solved except a different group of people has been subjected to that class. Now, all of the compassion, like, now that all of these people seem to, like, want to exude and really, oh my God, their parents are gone. Oh no, they're going to be treated like the Blacks, right? And, like, no one can handle it now. Now it's so awful, and everybody wants to care. This is what Shayna was getting at in that conversation. I think it's like, it was just shocking to hear her say that, because it's like, why is she talking about this like it's new? So I went back to this conversation and I unpacked it, and we got notes. This is a conversation that Jeff had in 2010. And then there's even 16 book references. I'm only an hour into the conversation. There's 16 book references, and of course Cornel West references there. But it's just like, wait a second. And she's like talking about, she's like, well, oh, no. I'm sorry. The point of her conversation was to highlight this idea and this potential problem that might come up in terms of students facing legal issues. I think something happened with the Trump administration where they are criminalizing truancy. So, like, if you don't show up to class like 8 times, I think she was bringing in really specific laws, but some of these laws are Tennessee specific, and we will talk about that as well. So in Tennessee introduces a law that says if you miss more than 7 days of class, then, like, they are literally putting you in, like, juvenile detention or something. Like, there's, like, literally some law that is being implemented now where after 7 missed days of class, it's not a write-up anymore. It's like they are sending you somewhere, you are being, like, prosecuted. So there's some legal action that's taking place. Now, I think a purpose of this happening in Tennessee, like, obviously if you're here, you know that I lived in Tennessee for 2 years. Tennessee is a very conservative state, unlike California. Now, California has had weird truancy laws for a while. If you go back to my Berkeley High playlist, we can talk about BTEC. I think that's a useful conversation to have. But a lot of California schools, because of, it's not just redlining, it's redlining and it's social class. Based on your zip code, that's how good your schools are going to be. So if you live in the hood, your schools are going to be awful. If you live in the suburbs, your schools are going to be better. It's a whole conversation around public schools. We've unpacked that in depth. So I'm not going to go back there. But in terms of this idea of truancy, the way that California has solved that problem is by creating something called continuation schools. BTEC is a continuation school. So initially, everyone starts in the general population in the general school. Now, if you miss a certain number of classes, like I think it's 6 or it might be 5 or something, I think after the first, like, because every time if you're not in class, there's an automated system because the teachers are required to take attendance. You get a phone call home to your parents, so your parent is alerted. But then I think after the second time, there's something like a meeting or something that you have to have with one. It's because after middle school, you have more than one teacher during the day, so maybe it was the teacher that of the class that you missed. But you also do have a guidance counselor, so I feel like the guidance counselor meeting might be the next step. And then I think the step after that is a meeting with the principal where it's like, okay, we need to make an action plan. Something's got what's going on. Hopefully the guidance counselor would already know what's going on in the person's life. But then after that, if they still, are missing classes, they get sent to BTEC, which is literally a continuation school. So you are pulled out of all of your classes and you are literally sent to an entirely different campus. That campus is a campus that is designed for basically problem children. It's like 5 blocks away from the traditional school, and the whole thing is gated. I don't know, it's almost like the special ed campus when you really think about it. That they don't do real learning there. Like the classes stop at 1:4. Like if a regular school goes to like 2:45, that one stops at like 1:15 or something. You only have one teacher for all of your classes now. And I think like you have to check in with your guidance counselor every day. I don't know, I didn't go to BTEC, but I definitely am familiar with like pretty much not all the black kids who went to Berkeley High, but I want to say like 97% of them all got sent to BTEC. So BTEC was known as like the black campus. So this is definitely something I would assume more people would talk about, but the only person who said anything about it is, ironically, Dr. Umar. That's actually how I came across him. So Dr. Umar did a conversation with the Breakfast Club where he basically, because that guy was like, I think he's a psychiatrist. He's a psychiatrist or like a special ed diagnoser. Some of his education has to do with mental health and then education, something like that. You can go watch the talk. I'll link it in the bio. Anyway, so he was basically talking about how there's like a pretty straight pipeline from like behavioral issues, which are kind of normal based on regular behavioral development in terms of age, but they're diagnosing black boys more frequently with mental health disorders and then subsequently giving them these IEP plans and then pulling them out of general education. That conversation's like 3 hours where he like breaks that down. I thought it was very interesting that more black men said nothing. Like he shared that conversation a while ago, but I definitely have seen way more black women being more aware of like mental health and the education pipeline and things like that. But I don't know, maybe this completely went over black men's heads. I don't know if now that there's we'll call them more I don't know how to classify FD signifier, but whatever lane you want to put him in, it does feel like his community should probably go and explore that topic if y'all give a shit. That's not my lane. Like, I don't really care what the black men do. So, but I thought the conversation was interesting and I definitely took a lot of notes. I don't know if I've ever talked about that because like I said, I really only care about issues that impact us specifically, like all the identity markers we have already gone into, and that doesn't fit under my column. Anyway, so let's go back to the talk from today. Some things I thought were interesting. This guy brings up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and he was basically talking about, okay, so if you were to take students who come from higher income backgrounds and then put them into these impoverished neighborhoods, then they would also have the same or similar outcomes to the kids who are already there. Now, this guy, Jeff Duncan, he works at this school in Oakland, and the school is called like Roses in the Concrete, and it's from some talk or performance that Tupac gave a while ago, which was about how, like, if you saw a rose growing from the concrete, you would be surprised because roses grow, obviously. They need all these things to grow. And so it would be like shocking to see a rose grow from the concrete. That's the whole premise of the school. But this guy goes in, there's so many things that he brought up. So there's a whole other like sectors of study that he basically talked about how he stopped reading sociology papers because he called it the litany of social injustice. And he says now he's been focusing all of his time studying social epidemiology and medical sociology. And then he talked about some documentary called Unnatural Causes. Is Inequality Making Us Sick? I think everyone at this point understands that, like, how can I say this? I'll actually just go back and make this really targeted and specific for me. And I've shown you guys this in so many ways. The reason that I made the first video a very long time ago that was like how to survive a PWI, right, which is a primarily white institution. We're talking about college here. The reason that I made that video specifically is because I knew that there was going to be someone else in someone else's story where they were like, well, how did Olivia do it? Because people always ask that fucking question. And they seem to think that because I don't identify with their worldview of like Sexy Red or Nicki Minaj or Beyonce, they're like, she must not know herself. They're just like, are you fucking kidding? They don't even know white history, but will tell you that shit. It's insane. So that's why I just kept putting out little images of stuff. I didn't like say anything, just like images. It'll be like me in a slipper. It's just like, I started posting pictures of the rose. Remember when Haley Williams, she came out with, what was that personal project? That one, I thought that was really good. There was a lot of imagery there. We've had a lot of conversations about the symbolic nature of a lot of those songs, processing anger, things like that, right? But to the naked eye, right, to the uninformed, these feel like random images that mean nothing and have no social significance. But what is not for you, you won't understand. Why? Because it's not for them. It's for us. I made it for us, right? If you watched the video, that's because it was for you. And you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't watch it, that's because it wasn't for you and nobody was talking to you. So how about mind your own business and stay the fuck out of our lane? That's what I have to say to that. Okay, let's go back because there were some other things that he said I thought were interesting. He talked about allostatic load. That is this interesting concept. It's kind of like, think about like overload. You know how people are talking about things like crash outs? That's the new term that people are using. Oh, everybody's crashing out. They're online crashing out. Oh, everybody's crashing out. Yeah, no. And then people also like to talk about mental breaks and mental health. If you look at American society and you seriously believe that American society is mentally healthy, the problem is you. Like, it's not even questionable. That's wild. Like, it's not even just an unpopular opinion. It really showcases your own personal delusion. That's the only way I could put it. Sometimes you don't want to seem like a Debbie Downer because, like, then it could feel like, oh man, you know, like you're always so negative about everything. Like, everything is so, like, everything can't be so awful. But then you're like, wait a minute, okay, but at the same time, if we're talking about groups, especially, that's another thing that is very frustrating to me. Like, and I've had to be very serious about that. Like, Black women specifically, we have our own issues that are just so specific. First of all, you have the baggage of womanhood, then you have the baggage of Blackness, then you have the baggage of America, right? It's like all that together. And even if you're not living in America, like, actually, I follow obviously a lot of like Ethiopian bloggers now. Their whole cultural everything is different, but there's still the baggage of being a Black woman, right? So those issues are just very specific. This entire channel is specifically focused on our point of view, our specific issues, and strategic ways that we move forward and win in very particular situations. It isn't target, it's not for all of us, it isn't for people of color, it's not a supportive space for women, and it's not even an empathetic space for Black men. It isn't that. And I've tried to make that explicit. And I feel like I have been explicit, but maybe some people aren't getting the memo. Like, anyway. There was another thing I thought was interesting, and I highlighted it. He gave an example of this kid, Edgar. So it looks like Edgar was like a Mexican kid who was at some park. It's called Nickel Park in Oakland. And Edgar is like a student, but he gets shot. But where he got shot was like right across the street from an elementary school. And he's saying there were 6 elementary school students who were on the play structure when that happened. And so then they saw Edgar get shot. And then I guess his body just sat there for like a couple hours or something. So nothing, like, he was basically describing how there was no intervention. There were no like grief counselors who came. And he was comparing this to whatever happened in Columbine. And he was talking about how even today in Columbine, there are still grief counselors who are supporting people who were there when it happened, and then people who understood that it happened and are sad, and like all the downstream and upstream effects of everybody else who was like impacted from that happening. Now this brings me to something very interesting, and if you watched my reparations video, you should be very familiar with this. That is the issue that Joy DeGruy unpacks. So Joy DeGruy, hopefully you know who that is. If you don't, go watch that video and read a couple of the works that I put there. But the point is, the transatlantic slave trade was really bad, and Black Americans who are descendants of that have never had any trauma therapy, stress therapy, any sort of reparatory efforts to remedy the emotional toll that has come from that. And so specifically, like, Joy looks at like that's so hard to say that. Like, in terms of like epigenetics, how the stress and trauma from dealing with that and then passing those trauma genes on has affected the Black American population specifically. So that is do you see how that plays in? It's like you could probably understand from a very like, in very simple terms, how if a 6-year-old watches a murder, it's going to be pretty bad and they probably need a lot of support. But if you think about, and then I think where I'm at in the talk now is Jeff talking about this, where he goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and he's talking about how kids can't learn if the bottom level isn't met, and that's like the safety, the food, and all that stuff. And so I think that the way that Jeff is talking about it is he believes that the school system should provide the solutions, the monetary, the emotional solutions to the kids who don't have those needs met. And I just wonder why people believe that public education should be there to solve social issues. I think that people are putting way too much time, effort, thought into this idea that public education institutions are like churches or community service programs that are supposed to like solve all of the social issues in your life. And that concept is very strange to me. This goes back to Shayna's video, because she was hinting at the same thought process. Like, the public schools are supposed to like fix this. They both keep saying it like this. We. It's like, yeah, no, girl. Like, that whoever had those kids who are dealing with the problems of poverty, the parents need to fix those issues. And I do understand that some communities are plagued by a multitude of poverty problems, but those solutions do not fall on the backs of everybody. Say that again, right? Like, in the same way that like we did not participate, in the birthing of those children, I don't believe that we need to participate in the financial rehabilitation of those children. Okay, that's like the easiest way to say that. And I think that it's just very strange because at every other point in life, every other adult, really of all races, I've heard this from multiple like black parents all day. They'll be like, look, it's your time to adult, blah, 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 blah. But all of a sudden you see like capable adults who are not, taking care of their responsibilities. And now all of a sudden it becomes we. Like, save your we's for yesteryear and also keep them across the board, It's not an all we problem. Here's the other thing too. I gotta, keep the smoke for really all the ages. Like, I read something and I'm not sure about this, and I tabled that. I'm trying to figure out a nicer way to say this, but I read that there's some law that I think the Republicans are trying to push this, where like there's like elderly or senior care or something, where like you're supposed to be required to take care of your elderly parents, and absolutely not. I can't remember. I'll find that video. Somebody like did a stitch where there's a bunch of Gen Z and millennials who were like, I'm absolutely not taking care of my parents, and I'm here with you. Like, let's fight that bill right now. Like, we should start a whole movement. Like, all the senior citizens should be responsible for taking care of themselves. Because, like, honestly, did they give any shits about us? No. Like, what do you solve your own problem in the senior home with whoever signed up to be a CNA, but like, it ain't me, in the wise words of Selena Gomez. Like, that's wild. Like, honestly, I just feel like I want it to be clear, like, I made this for us, and it wasn't for everybody. And specifically too, because I hate it, like when sometimes I'll go to the comments and it'll be a comment from a male, and then it'll be like, you read it a little more and it's like obvious that it's like a black male, and I swear I ask the same question every time. I think I have it written in a script somewhere. I put it in a note and I just copy and paste. But the bigger question is like, why are you here? I have made it very clear this is not a space for you. You know what I mean? Like, this is like specifically not for you. Like, why do you keep watching, participating? Like, here's a good example of this. So I saw that 2 Chainz made some video. It was called Bad Moms. Like the video is called Bad Moms, but the comments are what, it just took me to another level. He basically said, like, well, no, it wasn't him. It was a bunch of other men who got in the comments, and they're all like spilling all of, he's like, he's preaching the choir, he's doing so great, oh, he's right, oh, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it was just like, wait, what? Like, of all the things that you could talk about, of all the things impacting your community specifically, of men, like, you have smoke for our community once again. Like, who asked him to comment on us? Nobody. I'm not saying us like we're the bad mom community or anything, but I'm just saying, see how like women were nowhere to be found, and then all of a sudden here comes 2 Chainz being like, you know what, I have thoughts on those women. Like, bro, you have a lot of things that you could be talking about. There's so many issues that you could care about. Isn't like the men's mental health week, month, year, decade or something, is like the biggest issue in all of their communities? Like, I saw that, and I posted this if you didn't see it, but the audacity, literally, those 3 girls made a podcast that was about like, we are not responsible for caring about men's mental health. And just like one time, just once again, for the people in the back who missed the memo or who didn't get it, yeah, we are not responsible for their feelings, their care, their reproduction, living on the earth with them, just absolutely nothing. Like, they can all suck it, like, seriously. I also said this because I was like, maybe this is a meeting space for the incels. Like, I don't know why stuff that it's clear I'm not gonna like it is like recommended to me, then I feel like obligated to, respond and have an opinion. But yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel like Planned Parenthood is a savior from God. That's how I feel. Like, increase abortion rates. Every comment I read seemed like a call to like the gods of miso. What is it called? Miso, the abortion pill. I was like, man, if only your mother would have done us community service and fucking like, But no, now we all have to deal with this of just, oh God. It's like the Pookie side of the internet comes out once again, and now, oh God, it's like nobody at all asked them. And then once again, oh, we hate women. Women did this. Women did this. It's the worst. It's the worst. So yeah, I'm gonna watch the rest of that, and I will also link. I think I have. If you haven't seen the literacy chats, um, those are useful conversations, just mostly about how America's really dumb. If you didn't know this, the average American's reading level is grade 7. So when I was studying poverty, that's one thing I learned that was like insane. So if you were confused about why the country is full of Roseannes, it's because nobody can read. Literally, like all the teachers who I interviewed, they explained to me how they had to like dumb down newsletters. Like they would literally spend an additional hour and a half every day using smaller, simpler words and infographics to try to make the pamphlets that they sent home to the parents easier to read, because the dummies couldn't even understand that. So being a teacher in this country sucks. Like people are like really stupid. For real. So like a 7th grade reading level is wild. And that's the average. So that means there's actually a lot of people who couldn't even get to the 7th grade. They got even lower than that. What is it? Kindergarten? Cat, tree, dog. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, go watch that. Or what other if you haven't, I think I have one a playlist talking about social issues. If you haven't seen that, maybe that's a good watch. I also would highly recommend, I just appreciate a lot of the conversations the Kenyan twins are having. There's something about Kenya that's really great. Also, they're like fashionable now, so they've taken their conversations outside. Like they've been recording outside. Maybe it's because it's summer. I don't know what it is, but I do think that a lot of their takes make sense. So that would be another good reference if you're not familiar with them. I also appreciate Destiny Ute and a lot of her recent coverage. I think that most of the issues that are impacting Black women as a group specifically, she makes compilation videos of people on TikTok who respond to the issues, and then provides like a critical analysis at the end of the video. So she does this, like she produces like 3 videos a day. So those are really nice highlights. They're usually like 15 minutes if you have that to watch, and it'll, you know, go through the topic of the day. So if you're not familiar with those, highly recommend you tap in. So until next time.